Point structure is not, man, I'm stacking. Stacking! It's just like, I don't know. We lose that. We're losing so much of that. That's why I love Nintendo. They have retained what makes a game, and that is gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about the old Nintendo games, but yeah, I could definitely see it with some of the newer shit that they've been putting out.
Like, they never forget the fact that games are about gameplay. They're about the mechanics, they're about the feedback of the controls and the immersion between the player and the protagonist.
Yeah. I'll send you an invite, but yeah, no, that makes sense. I get what you mean entirely.
I don't know, man. I sometimes wish I could just shut the fuck up and not think about games as deeply as I do because people are like, no, dude, nobody cares. Just shut up. Gay. Gay. It's your KD, bro. You fucking suck.
Yeah, I mean, that's more with Call of Duty games. I don't think it really is the same for games
I
like
mean, that's
this.
like with a lot of gamers. Like, if I was in a party the other day and I was going off with my spiel about, and I didn't know these people, and I'm just talking how I talk, you know? I was going off with my spiel about how Destiny was RET and it killed our games industry, but ours was too big to die, and so instead of it killing it overnight, it was like the killing blow. And the homogenization of the industry in the coming years since, with everything turning into a games as a service or a economy-based, microtransaction-oriented experience, was like the post-mortem creeping over the body of our industry after Destiny
I don't even know what that
dealt the
means.
killing blow.
I don't even know what post-mortem means.
It's like the process your body goes through after you die when you start to harden and stiffen up and turn into a corpse.
Oh,
No, no, no,
nice.
no, not the post-mortem, the rigor mortis.
Do you know how to start the air assault on this?
People in the comments are just like, "Hey, fuck you, man! Get it right, it's not post-mortem. This guy's stupid."
I don't think so. I feel like most people don't even know what that means. I mean, there's some
Because
fucking geniuses
post-mortem
out there.
is what they do after death. They check how you died. Rigor mortis is what happens to your body after death. So yes, Destiny was the rigor mortis of our industry as the corpse starts to harden and stiffen and become lifeless. And you understand what I'm saying, right? The allegory of like the corpse is our industry starting to become more and more homogenized, like the beautiful varied of the art form of being like, oh, look
Yeah.
at these games, look at this game, look at this. We're gonna try. We're actually gonna have a effort. We're gonna hire writers and choreographers and level designers and artists and fucking texture, like all of the work that went in to make a game before. And now it's just no. We're gonna make an economy. We're gonna make skins, and you're gonna shoot each other. And the game is going to be a battle royale. The game is going to be a Destiny clone. The game is going to be a free-to-play games as a service economy.
Well, I don't think about battle. I don't think shooter games can get an economy. I think that works for more RPG games because that's more
No,
like
Destiny
Warframe.
totally has an economy because it's got the silver and the fucking like you actually have real money that you have to spend on a game that you already spent real money on. I mean, that began
Like,
with
yeah, I guess that's true. But Destiny is kind of a different example. Like Call of Duty could never get that to work. Like they can get you
oh,
to
they are
buy
now. I mean,
tokens.
is
They
there
can get you
anything
to
in
buy
Warzone?
tokens, but economically, no. Huh?
Does Warzone have paid currency?
Yeah, but that's I wouldn't consider that economy though. But yes, it does. I would just say that pay to win. I would say an economy is more like this game where it has inflation and stuff.
No, I'm not even talking about pay to win. When I say economy-based games, just like all they want to do is get you into a game where you're going to be in a hierarchical economy where you're like, oh, I got to get that suit, I got to
Oh
get that helmet,
yeah,
I got to get that skin, and that's all the game is about. It's just they're going to
yeah.
get you in, they're going to tempt you with other players. Like that's a lot of what Warframe does. They see people like level
With
23s or even like
goddamn
us running
everything.
around. And they see all your prime shit and all your fucking, they're like, dude, I'm gonna download that game. And then they have to go through, like, you have to start somewhere. And then it's
Yeah,
not as it's like
my
the immediate gratification that people want.
a friend of mine, he downloaded this game because he saw Wisp and he's like, I'm gonna get that, and then
Yeah,
deletes the game
I'm
like the next
gonna tap
day.
that. I bought that stupid bitch because her fat ass, and I wish I hadn't. Fucking
Hey,
spent
she's
goddamn
overpowered. She's overpowered.
340 something platinum on that bundle or whatever the hell it was. I forget what it was, but I was like, and then I just bought it because they're ass, and I was like, she's a support character. I'm not really into support characters like Trinity or mages or things like that, so I've never really used her. She's still level 22, I think. 24, 20. Wisp is not. Basically, I'm up there with Equinox and Nova, and now I got an Ember that I need to use that I got from the Twitch Prime thing. I have too many
Nice.
frames at this point that I don't use, so I'm not building them anymore.
Too many frames.
Too many frames.
Too many
Too
frames.
many frames.
It's very much, I don't know, fucking. I get what you mean though with the whole economy thing. I don't know if I can agree with that for every game as far as.
These people are. Whoa. Werewolf. You know, man, I always wanted my whole life to see a werewolf, but I do.
Yeah, no, didn't you say you nearly saw a werewolf? I remember you telling me about that.
You know,
Oh,
I
you
thought
thought.
it did, but you know, it's like it's close to get to anything like that.
Hmm, makes sense. Oh, really?
See, like right here, Ben, this is what I was thinking the other day. Like, what we are doing right now is 8 years, 7 years down the line of the progression and the story and the journey that we're on in this game. But what we're doing as the player, in all actuality, is what we've been doing for the like. This map is the same map. This is the same. And I know that is the nature of games like this, but it's just like when my brain can no longer fool itself, you know, as if like I give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
Because I am so goddamn interested in where the story's going, but I don't really want to play this game anymore. So it's very
Yeah.
weird.
It's just like they bring you with just these little
But I would never
10-minute
mark it down
extra
for that.
things.
It's just like this game had to be this way because idiots would never have supported it if it had been. It would have died flat out. It just would have been a game that came out in 2011 or 2012 on the 360 and PS3, and it would have been like a cult classic. But it would have never reached the heights that it is now.
Yeah,
But it would have been a different game.
for sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, shit.
But as a free to play, this is the only way that Warframe could have existed. So I don't begrudge it.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I like the game. I still play it. Oh, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't play it, so.
I just a lot of the time feel like I'm playing it because I don't want to leave it behind. Like I already put so much time into it, and like it did mean so much to me at one time. But now it just so much feels like I'm just going through the motions. Like I'm at work. Like when I'm like, I'll be clocking out soon. None of this really matters to me. And it's like I
Yeah.
didn't feel like that when I just fucking worked for 9 hours earlier. But that's just me. I'm weird. I think about it too much. I wish I didn't. Wish I could just turn my brain off and play a goddamn game.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I like story though, now. I feel like story's the thing I
Yeah,
go
dude,
for
I
more than
want to get
anything.
back into it. Like, I really want to get back into a story game that's like, can you imagine if Warframe was like Witcher, where like you could get lost in places and like talk
Yeah,
to
no.
people and do
I,
like crazy drugs and shit and like
yeah,
and
no.
really immerse yourself in its universe?
I
Like,
was kind of mad though, cause in Witcher, you could craft a Witcher psychedelic, like that Witchers take, cause apparently they take psychedelics. And I didn't even know about this. I didn't even know you could craft one, and then it turns out you can't take it. I was
yeah,
like,
there's so much stuff.
that would be so interesting, you know? What the fuck? Like, you know how there's only potions that only work for witches and shit?
Oh, dude, there was so many potions in that game that I wanted to make, but I just never got around to because the crafting was so grindy. That's one thing that Breath of the Wild absolutely shattered the mold on as far as game design and like crafting game design. Its crafting system is one of the most versatile organic crafting systems I've ever seen in a game. It's so streamlined. It works. It's simplistic. It's fun. You actually want to experiment with it. It's not like you got to trek back across this portion of the map to get this exact boar. Hope to God he drops. You're gonna walk around these valleys forever, and then you gotta get this plant. Where's that plant? It's in the Shivering Isles, wherever the fuck. And you gotta go get the exact ingredient every time, you know? So you like end up
Yeah.
grinding it out. In Breath of the Wild, it's much more organic. It's like if you make a potion, all you need is the initial effects of like, say if you're trying to survive in the snowy mountains, you need a potion that's gonna heat up your body temperature so you can walk around in the
Yeah.
snow.
Don't you need to do it
All you
though?
gotta do is you just climb up to an even higher peak in that area where it's gonna be cold, and you get like a bug or something that has like the effects of heating up your body temperature, and then all you need is that bug and then monster parts. So out of all the monsters like bokoblins, like hobgoblins and fucking all these different types of assailants that you take down, and you have their horns and their eyes and all their like organs and teeth and everything. All you need is the initial bug, and then you just need whatever type of monster parts that you have in your inventory. It's not like a specific monster part, like where it's like in a
Oh,
game where
wow.
it'd be like, you need this bug, you need a bokoblin horn, and you need a mokoblin horn. It's like, you need this bug, and then you could use a horn, a tooth, an eye, and a liver. Or you could use a liver, a tooth, and an eye. Like, it's very like crafting potions. It's very freeform. It's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I
Mixing
don't know,
foods together,
crafting in
drop like,
game just bores me. That's
yeah,
one thing.
I'm fucking
Never
done with
gotten.
crafting.
Yeah, no, I like
This
it.
is the
Don't get
only
me
game I put
wrong.
up with crafting anymore, dude. Every other game, that's why I crapped out on Days Gone. Although it's
Days
pretty
Gone.
streamlined.
What
Just
is? I don't even know what Days Gone is, to be honest with you.
it's a solid zombie game. That's what Days Gone is. It's just a zombie game. It's a good goddamn zombie game. You want to play a zombie game? Play Days Gone.
Oh really? Is it like a?
It's like
Sounds like a
Far
clone to
Cry,
like.
Assassin's Creed, Arkham.
Oh.
It's a clone of everything that is a clone of everything that is a clone.
Hmm.
It's the gameplay of, oh, go over there to that bush that you can hide in. When you get to it, you'll automatically crouch down. You can throw a rock to lure that zombie over there.
Oh,
Now
I
you're
know
gonna do a
what Days
pre-scripted
Gone is.
animation of stabbing them.
Didn't
You're
that
that
game
guy on the
fall off?
motorcycle, you know,
Yeah,
driving
and then there was
around.
all those fucking zombies.
The only
Didn't that
thing that
game
makes
fall
me
off?
smile about Days Gone is that it beat Death Stranding in its opening week in Japan. So that still makes me giddy
Yeah.
because that is such a hack game. I mean, Death Stranding is more hack. At least Days Gone is like it wears its mediocrity and its like derivative nature of being like every other zombie game kind of on its sleeve. Whereas Death Stranding is so fucking smug and so full of itself that it's just like, we get it, Kojima. You think you're like awkward, not very. War is bad, man. War is.
Yeah, no, I
It's like
never.
shut the fuck up,
I
you
thought Days
baby.
Gone fell off because I remember that game was really hyped up to like years ago,
You
way
notice how
before it
the
even.
main character is supposed to be Trump, man. Look at this, it's a MAGA hat, man. It's like, I paid you $900 for this, you fucking.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes enough sense at least. I don't know. I can't really put anything on game developers though. I feel like it's not even their fault. It might be them because they probably have some say, but I don't know. I feel like it's more of a situation of they're just paid. They do what they do their job. They develop the game. You know.
In a lot of ways, I used to think that, but if anybody thinks that Destiny is not directly
Yeah,
responsible,
true.
along with Activision, what happened to Bungie as it, I mean, Bungie is not responsible for what happened to Destiny as it went on. I mean, Destiny 2, they are a major proponent of why that game got so directed towards microtransactions, and then they took the shaders out and made them a microtransaction, and they made the game like more free to play based when it was premium.
Yeah, makes sense. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it does, but I'm sure they had some say in it. But I don't know. Maybe it will, especially with games like Destiny. And No Man's Sky, I guess, would also be a good example of developers fucking you over.
Oh, that was No Man's Sky was blatant chicanery and fraud. I don't give a like anybody can detest that. Anybody can argue that. But I was there, bought the broken alpha that game was, And then
Yeah.
because chumps like me supported it, then they can say that look at all these free updates, these quote unquote free expansions. It's like they
Yeah.
weren't free. I fucking people like me that bought into the bullshit that he
I
was
feel like
spinning,
people don't realize anymore
taking
though
us.
how much sixty
I
dollars
still have
pays
that
for a
game.
game.
I don't care.
Like, because
People
whenever I
have
talk to people, I feel like no one realizes how much $60 really pays for a game. I don't know. Because a bunch of
people
people
don't
that,
because
'cause-
they don't have a range. They don't have like a way of comparing what it is. They think that it's just oh, it's just $60, dude. That's what games are. They're $60. It's like
and
I could buy a
then
game like Inner Space for $11. I could buy a game like Inside for $20. A game like Hyper Light Drifter or Bastion or I Am Bread, Gone Home,
I mean, I
fucking
like the idea of kind of stopping the DLC, but with the freemium transactions, I don't agree with it. See, I like because I remember a bunch of people complaining, so they took out all the fucking DLCs, and then now it's like
dude. When they
freemium
like,
transactions, and it's
it's
just
just like everything. It's like there is just like propaganda, just like politics, just like good and evil. It's like it's not black and white. It's like there is good DLC and there's bad DLC. Like you can look at something like The Witcher and what it did with Blood and Wine and Heart
yeah.
of Stone. Like that is what
I bought the
if
complete
you're gonna
game.
buy something after the fact and buy more, pay more for a game, and they're gonna add more, then it better be an expansion. It better be actual content like that.
You
Whereas
know,
it's something like
I mean,
fucking
Destiny,
The Dark
Des
Below and House of Wolves. It's just like
yeah,
what the
and then they
fuck.
came out with a $60 DLC that
Yeah,
was
The
like
Taken King, and everybody always looks back at The
that was
Taken King and they're
not
like,
$60. Well, like
no, not even worth it.
that was maybe 20, and the
Compared
other
to things like
DLCs.
I'm gonna die.
We'll compare it if we want to really compare it to Blood and Wine. That the Blood and Wine is goddamn it. I would maybe pay sixty
Oh,
dollars for
there's a
that.
lot of games that I can name that I bought this generation that it's like this was a full game and you can't even hold up to a DLC of a game that was in itself incredible. And this is just an expansion for that incredible game, which is in itself a masterpiece. A
But what I
little
don't
tiny
under
encapsulated adventure.
Well, what I wonder though is
My
how much money are they really making? Because if you think about it, because people use that argument that that's how they make money, and the more I think about it, what about the games that have gone out of business, like Saints Row, that were really good games? Is it because they just
well,
went all
Volition
out
didn't
on
go
one
out of
game?
business. They were acquired by Quicksilver, but they're basically gone now. As far as just the same thing with things like what Bungie is now. All Bungie is the name. All Volition is the name. All Infinity Ward is the name.
That's the reason why I don't. Why the Outworld game, though it looks good, I feel like it's just not. It's just an Obsidian game. It's not a
Well,
game.
yeah, if you know Obsidian, their games are either the greatest games ever or like what I paid 60.
I mean, it looks good though,
And
but I
it's like a
mean,
borderline broken mess. Just like
it looks good though, but I don't know. What I've
I
seen
can't
of
get out
it,
of this
there have
truck.
been people that literally have
Started it
sped
stuck in
run
the
the
ground.
game.
I
Have
haven't heard a lot about it. It's almost like I can just kind of discern now whenever I'm like, I have so many games as is that I just end up skipping a lot of these things over, but I can also,
well,
I've been
no,
playing games for so long where I'm like, "Ah, it probably wasn't that great because it looked like a really cool game, but
well, there was
I
some
was not
people
that
literally
into
beating the
Fallout New
game.
Vegas
There was literally
because
some.
Obsidian's games are hit or miss.
There was literally some people beating the game that they were doing it in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, man, in a lot of ways it just seems like it's all too good to be true. Like when they talk about these games they're going to build nowadays, I'm like, yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. Like Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Never played it.
Yes.
Oh no, I'm not a big fan of the Resident Evil. When I saw Resident Evil 7, I think it was that the one where they went first person and like horror? Am I correct? I don't know. You
when
think?
you see the gameplay of that, there's no way we're gonna fucking actually be playing that game when it comes out. I mean, the video of it is like, here you'll see as this monkey uses his jetpack to fly around this huge, like, Baba Ganoush fucking sized statue of this like elephant god or whatever in this futuristic city. They're talking about the scope and the scale of the game, and like he jumps out of the ship. Like he goes from being inside the ship, and then he deploys a smaller flight, like a smaller drop ship from inside of the mothership, and then he takes that zooming around the coast, around that city, and the city looks like he's flying through. Like any, they're saying you can actually play in this. You can actually be inside the world and like touch down on random planets, and the cities will stretch all the way along the coastlines, and it'll be like these huge Blade Runner, Fifth Element type like flying cars and picturesque vistas and giant glass skyscrapers as far as the eye can see, shops and stores and dynamic AI events. Like, and I'm like, there is no way we are going to ever play this game.
Yeah, no, especially after they lied about the
The amount of
space
things,
epic. Like
yeah,
any
that
space
I
epic
still
game,
go
I
back.
just don't believe about
Yeah, I don't
anymore.
care anymore. It's like you're not gonna pull it off. I got stuff to play where I'm gonna get more of an experience from this little indie game that pulls it off more. Like Outer Wilds pulls off what No Man's Sky couldn't, I think, way better. And it's a much smaller, more succinct game about a race of bipedal, like four-armed aliens that are four-armed, four-eyed aliens that have like a 1960s space administration type technology. So they have like thrusters and huge fucking vessels on their ships, and like they're basically aliens, but they're like we were in the 60s and 70s with like it's just one small step for man, and like you fucking have to actually pilot your ship off the home planet, and like you go into these dark. One of the creepiest things I've ever seen in a space game, where you have to go into the dark bramble, and it's
Yeah.
like this interdimensional seed where like when you're flying up to it in your spaceship, it looks like a tiny little hole in space, right? And you're
Yeah.
just floating up to it inside your tiny little thing you're flying around. Looks like the Apollo 11, if you've seen that old space footage of NASA and like the old 60s like home video and all that of like how this shuttles used to look. So you have that, but you're like aliens, and so you come up to this small little hole in space in the dark bramble, and like upon flying into it, the way they did it is seamless. It was mind blowing. It was like space and time warp the moment you go through the hole, because it looks like you're crawling into a small little tree trunk, and then it just opens up into this gigantic abyss with these like anglerfish fucking type of enemies that can devour your whole ship, and you don't even know what the hell is going on, and it's like bigger than like a fucking great hall on the other side of eternity, but at times when you turn left or go into one of the tunnels down below, it like gets small or big. It's a bonkers game. The Outer Wilds, I would recommend that one to everybody.
The Outer Wilds. I don't know. I feel like I haven't played it. Is it how much is the game? You know how much it costs?
I think they gave it away for free recently.
Oh,
Probably
really?
like $20 if not.
Oh, I might check it out then. That sounds interesting. Oh no, I feel like indie games are very hard though. They're very hit and miss with indie games. That's the reason why
They
indie has
rely
a bad
on
name on it.
a lot of indie games rely on that you have played games for as long as I have, or as long as the developers have, because they played them longer than me, and like they play on a lot of conventions of like, oh, you remember these type of isometric top-down RPG dungeon crawling games? Well, this is that, but with a twist. And like, if you haven't played enough games, obviously you're not going to see the kind of game that it is, and then you're just going to be like, I don't get what's special about this. I'm bored. And that's what I think is the problem with a lot of indie games, is that they rely on you having a knowledge of a genre like that's probably before your time, or like a whole
Well, what I'm
history
not
of
saying,
gaming that's like a
well,
lot
that's
of these
real
guys.
indie games. You know, what I was talking about is you know how some indie games have a bad history because some indie games are like developer cash grabs.
That didn't used to be the case. Nowadays it's more the case with like publishers starting to come in and make their games look like indie games, but you have a discerning eye about it, because you look and you're like, oh, this publisher is trying to say that this is an indie game, but I see Square Enix's logo on it or whatever. Like Little Nightmares, that was a badass game, but it's made to look like an indie game, but that's a AAA published, like indie looking game. It's a great little game, but
Mm.
fucking downloadable game with a season pass, so that was a concerning trend.
Yeah, no,
Like
season passes. I don't know.
they're never going away.
Yeah, no, I think that's the meta now.
In a lot of ways, season passes ruin the game because if you're just supposed to get into the game and play the main story that's supposed to be the crux to push you onward through the world that they've designed and through all the novel bits of gameplay mechanics and things that you're going to engage with as the player while you're here, you know what I mean?
Well, season passes only really
Season
work on
passes
free to
ruin
play.
everything because when you turn it on, you're not even you're incentivized to go and do some shit that you're not supposed to be doing until 120 hours, 60, 70 hours later because you haven't even beaten the main game yet. It's now saying to you like, "Oh, run off over there and go get this super awesome godlike armor and you don't even need it yet because you're in the fucking tutorial area." And it's like, but you bought the big dick edition, so here's everything. And it's like, it kills the sense of progression. You know what I mean? Like where you are now in Warframe
Yeah.
as compared to where you were 4 or 5 years ago, you really feel a sense of scale and progression and scope with the journey that this game has gone on, rather than if you just get in now and you're like, I don't want to wait. Give me my fucking Prime. Get the mom. I need your credit card.
Yeah, very much like a few people I know. It's very much like, yeah. I think
And they
that
miss
does
out on
ruin the
the
game
whole
a lot.
dynamic of that. Like when they think that every weapon is shit that isn't a Prime weapon, and it's like, well, you're never gonna get a mastery rank at all, man, because you're supposed to look at it as like, all of this ups my rank, all of this builds it up. And when I first started the game, it wasn't even like a sentence like, oh god, I have to do this. It was like, wow, this game is really alien, unique. I want to build all these weapons. I want to check out all of this stuff. I want to play this. And where a lot of people like, they buy into it and they get everything, and then they're like, man, I'm so fucking bored.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I get bored pretty easily, but like like now whenever I'm playing games and shit, it comes down to like I just get like I just do it as something to do, you know?
Yeah, man, it's like with this, it's like I just have a lot of the time I'm like, well, I'm getting focused right now, or I'm leveling up these guns, or I'm doing something. I am gaming. I'm having a game, but like it's not even like anymore with gameplay where it's like I need to look for more games. Where that's why I love indie because you find games where you're like, wow, a game where you use both the left and right analog stick as a little brother and a big brother, and you control them simultaneously along a journey to find medicine for your father, or a game where you have to control a slice of bread and it becomes toast, and that's like a epic quest in itself of like using the ambidextrous controls of like the left and right trigger to the left bumper and the right bumper with
What
the
was the
sticks to move
darkest thing you've
around
ever found
in
in a game, would you
coordination.
say? I was trying to say was tracked,
Probably
but
the darkest thing I've ever found in a game. Did you ever play the demo for PT?
yeah, I actually did.
I'd probably say that little aborted fetus in the sink in PT that like waves at you, even though he was really cute after a while. He was pretty cool, but it was pretty fucking dark at first. You're like, man, that is. It sucks that the game never came out because,
If I'm
especially
be
that what we
honest with
got
you,
with Norman Reedus working with Hideo was Death Stranding. I would have much rather gotten Silent Hills, unless that game
yeah,
was preaching about Trump, which it damn well may have been.
I don't know. I feel like PT would have been a nice game. I mean, I didn't play the much of the demo to be honest with you, because around the time that I got it, literally I saw that. Because remember when you first got the PlayStation, you'd check the what's new tab, because you're like, what the fuck is
Yeah,
that? I don't
I just
check that
always wanted to
anymore.
like see what it was. Yeah, it's like you wanted to see what this console could do. I
Yeah,
missed that when
no.
I would be like, what's new, what's new, what's new. I remember at first it was Contrast and then Don't Starve. And again, I never played games like that on the PS3 and 360 because this was when I finally got access to the PC library.
Yeah.
That's what I did. The whole first part of this generation was just lose my shit on like, holy, I can play all these weird PC games now that I never had access to, like Jazz Punk and Surgeon Simulator and Don't Starve, and then getting
I
into
feel
like
like over time the
MMOs and shit.
PlayStation
And
has
here I am
lost
6
its
years later.
charm. It's like you just need that
Everything
new
loses
thing.
its charm over time. Everything becomes commonplace. I remember when I first turned on Skyrim, dude, and I felt like the world of Skyrim stretching out before me, like, and I felt like the towering, misty peaks around me, and it truly felt like an adventure. Like you were like, man, I can't wait to explore this. You were excited by the very prospect of it.
Yeah.
But now it's just boring because
Boring,
you go through the
boring, boring.
motions of.
Start playing the game and it's just not the same. I don't know. That happens to me a lot. But as far as like a PS4, I don't know. It's just like it's so. I remember when this was so new to me, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was just now it just feels like I just have a PlayStation 3, especially now. Do there? I guess you're like, I
Yeah, the. I know what you mean. It's like you wish that. But I mean, that's the same with everything. You can't because time passed on. Like I'm going like that's why I'll tell myself that I'll wait for the PS5, but I probably won't because I want to feel excited and novel again about the prospects of where technology is going. Like I want to. Have you seen ray tracing demos? It's gonna be horror
Yeah, but
games,
for Minecraft, which is
dude.
already
Horror games with ray tracing are gonna be. Oh my god! Like it looks like something's coming at you. Like there's almost no aliasing anymore. There's almost no like flicker effect of how shadows can't really like PC does shadows really well, but consoles are still the thing where like again, it's crazy how once you get the PS5, you'll go back
but
to the
that's because a
PS4.
PC can is very flexible.
Yeah, it's always going to be that way. But it's like that when you get the PS5, you'll go back to the PS4 then, and you'll notice all the things that it could not do, like shadows and really detailed ray tracing lighting and things like probably particle effects on like water and like a full scale oil tanker explosion.
Yeah, full oil tank explosion. That'd be interesting. I
But
mean,
that requires, I don't even know if they could, there's not many PCs that can do graphics like that, because that's a
I don't
lot
know. I
of
have a feeling it comes down
graphics.
to more of the developers, though.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to more of the audience that wants to buy these things, and nobody wants to buy games anymore that does anything except for like, I got a skin, I'm kicking my homie's ass, and I got the highest score. And it's like, nobody fucking cares about the story, nobody cares about how much a developer is willing to, like, I can't wait for Cyberpunk because it's a world where you're just gonna go lose yourself in it. If the developer does their job and they're saying that they want to make it their crowning achievement of this generation, you're just gonna be able to lose yourself in playing that game. Like, what do I want to do in Night City? I don't know. Let's go find out.
As much as I've like hyped, as much as I'm hyped for it, I ain't
Oh,
got my
everything
hopes
this
up.
generation has taught me to temper my expectations. All I'm ready for is to just play it. I don't have any expectations.
But for once, I actually feel like because, all right, with Bungie, I honestly that would have made sense if they did pull out with that space epic because they had the money for it. With the developers that made No Man's Sky, I had no idea who they even were.
I did. Their previous claim to fame was Joe Danger and Joe Danger 2. They are basically 2D Excitebike clones, trials, moreover, for your generation, where you jump around on a bike and little obstacle courses in the desert and like jump over ramps and do loop de loops and collect points and balloons and do
Yeah, but
combos and shit. And you collect danger and like you get the danger multiplier. And they were really cool. They were solid for when the arcade on PS3 was more of like fun little games, like rather than like indie on the PS3 and 360, especially on the 360, was like whenever people were like, "Oh, dude, indie games are just 2D games because they didn't have the fucking budget, so it's just a stupid little two-dimensional game." Whenever indie really opened up into like the avant-garde, philosophical, soul-searching, existentialist type of the nature of games that come out of them nowadays was when it went from like the PS4 to the Xbox One, because then they started having access to things like the first thing that was the turning point for indie games to turn into that on the PS3, back on the PS3, was Journey, Flower, and Flow. Those were like three of the games where I'm like, this is a game can be this as well. And that was when I went away from like games have to be like, where's my gun? My family is dead, and I will avenge them.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of how The Last of Us is? Like I got into it, but I don't know. The Last of Us I just don't really like.
The Last of Us uses its tropes to their strengths because, yeah, it's not anything people haven't seen before. A post apocalyptic story, a girl who is immune, traveling across the country to deliver the cure. There's a lot of these same notes, but what it does and what it did at the time was truly groundbreaking. No game had ever delivered a cinematic storytelling experience that was a game like that.
I'm definitely gonna
Naughty
go
Dog,
play
like,
it.
I don't even care if Naughty Dog is a bunch of Jews and SJWs. I'll eat my fucking hat. They make Monets when it comes to games. They make fucking like
Like
they
I
make
don't.
absolute defining works of art with what games can be. Uncharted 4 was one of my most like the experience of that game, having played them all, it was like again, that was like a religious experience. That was like what Mario Odyssey felt like. That was like what Red Dead Redemption 2 in some ways felt like whenever you
Uh,
have like the whole, especially God of War, it's what it felt like with like coming full circle, terra firma, as they say.
I don't know. I never liked any Naughty Dogs games, to be honest with you. For me, like
Yeah, but
I don't.
everybody's got different tastes. I never liked any of the Dynasty Warriors or not a lot of Tom Clancy, even though everybody
Yeah, no.
swears by Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. My dad loved
Well,
that game.
I've never played that actually. I've never played a Ghost
That game you
Recon.
cannot just shoot. You can't just like that game was like if you want to play a tactical military shooter, play Ghost Recon. I mean, not now because it became like GTA Online, but what it used to be was like you have to go in, recon the area, scout it out, send in a guy. He has to like mark the guys. Then you have to have like a spotter with a sniper. You can't just go and snipe guys. You have to bring a spotter with you. Then to go into the area, you have to like coordinate. Like I remember watching my dad play that on afternoons when I would come home from school in like 2000, like 6, 2007. It was just like it would take them an hour and 30 minutes just to take a base, just to get in and around the perimeter to go and be like, all right, there's a guy right there. Like, okay. I remember it's very dated, but in Disturbia, he's playing Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter whenever his mom shuts off Xbox Live when he gets put under house arrest.
Yeah,
And everything there is probably a whoosh.
everything's probably a whoosh. So whoosh.
Went straight over your head.
Uh, yeah.
Because I forget how old I am as compared to you sometimes. And then I'm like,
Yeah,
man, I
that's
am
true.
fucking old. I'm just over here rattling off a bunch of shit that people are like,
Uh,
what's this
I
guy
don't know.
saying?
My game when I was a kid was like PlayStation 2. I'll get like that was my console.
Everybody had a PS2 back then just because it was a DVD player at the time when DVD players were like $1,000. PlayStation 2 got into everybody's home because it was a cheap and affordable DVD player. And then you just started playing, I started playing games on it as we grew up before I even really acknowledged what it was or even cared. Did you know that the menu for that, you remember the bars, how like they would come out at you, right? And it would be like that misty like void that you would see them stretching off into?
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Those were actually indicators of what you were doing on that console. Like they would grow and change color with how much games you played and how much you achieved in the games. Like eventually they would stretch all the way out of the screen depending on what you did. Like they were dynamic. I didn't even know that.
I did not either. That's actually cool. Imagine if imagine if fucking what you call it? What imagine if PS4 did some shit like that? That'd be interesting.
Have you seen the controller for the PS5? And that's
I
all everybody is talking about lately. They're like, man, have you seen it? It's like the second coming. It's the 360 controller. I mean, there's a basic reason why. It's the best controller ever made. They just were like, what if we did that?
well, yeah, but The one thing I like about PlayStation controllers is I hate Xbox controllers, man. I fucking hate them for a good reason.
Xbox controller is the best controller ever made. That's the only reason I still have an Xbox, just because I love that controller. I like playing. Like, I could never and would never play Bioshock on a PlayStation. It would just feel physically wrong. Just like playing Metal Gear on an Xbox would be like, what am I doing?
Yeah, no, it's very
This isn't
much.
right.
I don't know. For me, it comes down to as far as controllers. Alright, so the thing I like about the PlayStation controller and why I fucking love it so much is because there's not. You know how, like, with the Xbox controller, your thumb is in a completely different spot and it's not centered?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't like that. I fucking hate that.
I can see that. It's very not ergonomic. It's like kind of artsy. I'm always kind of like that about that controller. It kind of reminds me of the N64 controller. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. It's like that weird looking trident shaped controller with three
Oh,
prongs.
you're not talking about the N64. Oh, wait, no, it is the N. Yeah, no, I've used that
Yeah,
controller, man. I
fucking
played
weird.
chess
Just
and I
weird.
played Tomb Raider on that, like the old classic
Yeah, man.
Tomb
I
Raider.
had Power Rangers. I had Mario 64. I had a bunch of games that like I remember back. I miss the way I used to play games. That's why I kind of like a few years back went back to that with how when I was a kid it didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter what the game like when I'm like, oh, is this highly scored or is this interesting or what kind of genre is this or how much playtime or what kind of game is this? It was just as a kid you were like, I like what this looks like, and then you'd either buy one of the coolest games ever or you'd buy something that you're like, this isn't like the box at all. This is stupid.
Not like the box.
Like what's on the cartridge, you're like, fucking A, like I'm in Blockbuster on a Friday night, like probably like 99 or 2000. Like your parents like, oh, you can get one game. And then if
Yeah.
you picked wrong, that was it. You screwed yourself.
Oh
Because all you
yeah.
had to go off of was the art on the cartridge.
Yeah. I mean that's true.
And a lot of the times they just make it look as cool as possible because they want you to buy it. And then you're like, man, like I still wish to this day that I could play. Like when you look at Atari cartridges and stuff, you're like, man, can you imagine playing like what you're seeing? Have you ever looked at an Atari cartridge or an old like SNES cartridge or like old games like that, and you see the
No.
art on the cartridge?
No, I was born around the PlayStation 2. I was not around during Atari.
Next time you're in like one of those old retro shops or like one of those old, because a lot of them now specialize because the whole hipster fad of like which is
Yeah.
old is new again. They have a lot of those in there. Just look at one of the cover arts of one of those and like imagine that game, but like on a current gen system and what how crazy that shit would be.
Yeah, I could see that.
But it's never like that. It was always like what the approximation of what you're going to get in like 8-bit or freaking 32-bit or 16-bit was
Hmm.
from 8 to
Wasn't the
16 to
first console an
32 to
Atari?
64. Now, the first console technically was developed by MIT, and it was a huge supercomputer that could play asteroids. But if you want to go like to the first console, like for commercial sale and wholesale, like ubiquitous use within the home, was the Magnavox Odyssey, and that was just a white little box with a knob on it that you could control a little rectangular light on the screen, and that was what you could like. The knob would move the light around, you know,
Mm,
and then
yeah.
it came with overlays, which were these plastic laminated things that you could lay over the TV screen. So the light would be like running through a forest in a haunted house, or you could put an overlay over the screen and you're like in a city in like a GTA type looking game, or you could put an overlay in the screen and you're in like a dungeon looking game, or you could put an overlay in the screen and you're doing like sports or going through mazes, or like it was like back when analog technology was still becoming digitized.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a PlayStation 1. I remember that. I think
Yeah,
I
man.
nearly played a game at a friend's house because his brother had an old PlayStation 1 in their garage. We were about to set that up. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that kind of is a testament though to how far consoles have came. if you think about it.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember watching old videos and like whenever you get on the internet as a kid and you're like, I'm just gonna look at like where video games are going and like and that was maybe 2007, 2008 and like you're watching videos of like what they would be talking about in like 2015 and 2020 and like what they were talking about the games were gonna do and it was
Yeah.
things like and they were
And they
fully
went
going on
even
again with like virtual reality and like things like
they went
games are
even
going to
beyond
be
that.
entire second lived lives and it's like yeah, you have no idea. Gaming, and in a lot of ways, that is what killed it. That is what made it so uh, normalized, and everything is muddied. Like now, with everything being the same, everybody's like, "Oh, we just want battle royales. We just want a game with fat asses and badass skins and
Yeah.
status as a season pass."
Fat ass. Yeah, no, I could see that. I could see why a lot of people would want a fat ass in a game, though.
Yeah, man. And then you get into the whole thing with the social justice narrative coming into games. Like, well, why would you want that kind of thing, you misogynistic, patriarchal pig?
Because I like
And it's
ass.
like, because this is my world and I have agency over it. And if you start taking that away, you're taking away the very essence of what games are about, is that I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, well, isn't the social justice just like a entire FU to fucking the Constitution in general?
In a lot of ways, that's what Marxism and postmodernism ends up to be. I mean, look at the world we're getting now with this whole pandemic scare, and they're like, well, we need to keep the country locked down for another 12 to 18 months, and as long as everyone's safe. And
Yeah.
so it really is in a lot of ways that, yeah, nobody gives a fuck about the Constitution anymore. They don't think that a piece of papyrus written by a bunch of old patriarchal white men who probably owned slaves has anything to fucking do with them and their iPhone.
Yeah, I guess that's true, because history, people think just because it's very far back in history that it doesn't matter on today, but that is what creates today.
The way I see it, like when people are like, those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. I've been thinking about it lately as more like those who do not know their history are the ones writing yours for you.
What do you mean?
You're going to live through history because these people are going to get you killed. These people are going to report you to the cops when you violate social distancing. They're going to get you shot in the head in some sense when you're like, no, I'm not going away. I'm not giving up the guns. You're not forcibly removing my grandma from the home to keep her safe by taking her to the convention center downtown. You're going to either be taken away, have your rights violated, or you'll be silenced and indoctrinated into the Borg that is our modern day Marxist postmodernist society, where if you aren't a victim, you'll learn how to be one, or you'll shut the fuck up and you'll support the victims.
Yeah, that is
Because
true.
odds are you're oppressing someone if you're not a victim.
Yeah, makes sense.
If you're doing too good to even think about from a place of privilege, from a point of privilege, equality looks like oppression.
Yeah,
That's how these people fucking think.
makes sense.
And they don't want to be
Damn, we.
equal. They just want to be superior. They want to whine and complain and they want to have their vanity politics. And as this pandemic is showing us, like their politics are just that. They're just like something to say at a party. They're just something that makes you look smart, something that makes you look really hoity-toity and adults. It's like, but you don't actually live real life. You don't actually have any real philosophies or methods of dealing that aren't like, oh, well, we should just give everything out for free and war shouldn't be a thing and we should just legalize all drugs and one race, the human race, and we don't even know what race and IQ is, and we don't know, and we don't know, and it's my truth, and then your truth eventually evolves into, well, my truth demands justice, and my justice will be swift, and then you get social justice. You get people being canceled, you get people being shut down for accusations, you get the Me Too movement, you get the whole fallout of Hollywood and Weinstein, you get the fucking Gamergate movement amongst the SJWs getting into our industry. And everything now is infected with it. It's like you can't even. I can't
Get
just go
away.
back to being the kid that I was. Like I was thinking this week, I'm like, maybe I should just take it down a notch, man. Maybe I should just calm down. But like, I can't even talk to black people without it being like, well, I'm being a black man in this country, and you're just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, you're an ostrich. If you even have to have it explained to you how that's not even the case anymore, how you're being made out to be the morally wise in this culture of fuck anybody that is not down with the left, that is not down with liberalism, that is not down with the cult of wokeness.
The cult of wokeness. Wow. That makes that's a good name for it. I'm not the cult of wokeness.
And
Sounds
that's
like
what
a
it is. It's a cult because you can't disagree with any of these people if you're in that sphere, if you're part of that world. You can't disagree. You can't have one thing and say something else. You can't be like, well, yes, I'm for trans kids and I'm for puberty blockers and I'm for open borders and I'm for gay marriage. But now if we're talking about illegal immigrants coming in here and I'm paying for their health care, and they're like, wait, what bigot? What? Or that one guy, Mario Lopez, he got skewered and crucified by the fucking news because he said, like, well, I don't know if we should be giving 9-year-olds puberty blockers without their parents. It's kind of strange. And that's all he said. And then he apologized, and they're like, Mario Lopez. And that guy, like, you don't apologize to these people. They will fuck. They'll
everyone's
eat you
kid.
alive.
You watch a beautiful person, they're like, we don't fucking like.
Except now they're not gonna. They're actually. They've given their movements. They've taken the steam out of them with Bernie dropping out of the presidential race, as anybody knew he was probably going to do, because as he did in the beginning, and when the DNC fucked him, and then he endorsed Hillary, and then now I won't be surprised if he comes out and endorses Bernie. But now that he's dropped out, and it's basically Trump is running unopposed, so it's going to be a landslide victory in 2020. That doesn't really matter because there's bigger problems than that. But it's like the left eating itself alive. It's like when you look at what Biden is doing, when you look at what the Me Too movement is, where they're like, the Me Too movement was like whenever all that Hollywood shit came out and Weinstein and him raping and molesting all these women, and like they're talking about that all this Fatty Arbuckle nonsense that went on behind the scenes is finally going to get brought justice to, and then it eventually became from like women being venerated and like lifted up as to like being weaponized and used against men, as like believe all women became
Yeah.
like believe all women, like even Blasey Ford trying to do a 36-year-old fucking accusation against a Supreme Court nominee, Judge Kavanaugh, which was like maybe about last year now, maybe like a year and a few months ago. And that was like setting a precedent for like, well, fuck due process, because if it's believe all women, then believe all women. And all you got to do nowadays as a man to be a rapist is just be accused. But that's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother tangent. What I'm getting to, I say that to say this, is like Biden and his whole run for presidency could be jeopardized right now by a very legitimate claim that he raped or sexually assaulted one of his staffers or one of his campaign heads, as far as one of the women on his campaign.
Oh wow.
But Alyssa Milano, the head of Me Too, is not taking this claim to bear because it's like she is one of his backers. She is one of the people that supports him, and she is one of the major proponents in the beginning of Me Too. She's like one of the faces on like the Mount. If there was a Me Too Mount Rushmore, it'd probably be like Alyssa Milano.
Like brand? Are you talking about like branding and like
Yeah,
trying
it's
to
like
say
she
to
is the
your
face of
brand?
Me Too.
Okay.
And now when it's like it goes from believe all women to like, well, some women shouldn't be believed. It's like, why, bitch? Because that would jeopardize Joe Biden's presidential run, which nothing's going to jeopardize his run other than the fact that he's a senile old man. Like if you've actually watched any clips of him, he doesn't, like he's the economy and bringing jobs over to the look here. I don't think like he's not even all there. It would be.
Yeah,
It would be
isn't there
hilarious
claims that
to
he
watch
forgot
them.
that he was even in, like he forgot about that he was even in one of the fucking, I heard about that, that he like forgot basically that he was in, a debate or some shit.
Dude, all I know about Joe Biden and just what I've been watching over the last 4 months and my own, I'm like, well, if I was to vote for this guy, what I know about him is he makes up stories about gangsters named Corn Pop and fighting them with chains and rusty razors, soaking them in rain barrels and talking about, and I love kids sitting on my lap. When I was a lifeguard and I was in the 60s, the kids would rub the hairs on my legs, and like, and you're like, what the fuck are you saying right now? Like, no matter what anybody says about the current commander-in-chief, I'd rather have him running around making the calls. He's got a family, rather than a guy like Biden, who's not all there anymore. He's probably on his way out. But with the kind of money he has, that could be for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Because if Biden was just some schmuck, if he was just some Southwestern, just flyover loon, he would probably have already died or be on his way out to dying right now. He'd just be running around hospital punching nurses in the stomach because he's one of those old men that are still spry enough to do some damage, but he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
He challenged one of his dissenters in a press conference to a push-up contest. He challenged this fat guy to a push-up contest.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Like
They
that
have
matters.
nothing at this point. It's almost like I would not be surprised, because the way that these people work, I wouldn't be surprised if at this point it turned out to be that way, that they meant for this to happen, that they wanted Trump to get reelected so bad to get their policies over the line, as far as that they tanked everything. They spent the last 6 months to a year, not even that, just from 2016 to the last 6 months to now, talking about Russian collusion and Stormy Daniels and grab her by the pussy and piss dossiers and fucking like impeachment and like taxpayers' money wasted on countless investigations, countless hearings, countless just theater of the, like when you watch these things, if you've ever watched Congress, if you've ever watched any of the stuff they do on C-SPAN or any of the things you can check out on YouTube on the political channels, it's like Game of Thrones. It's like West Wing. It's like a fucking Aaron Sorkin show. It's like television. It's not real. It's just meant to be like,
It's
wow,
like entertainment.
Frankly, Mr. Strzok, I don't appreciate a CIA operative with this kind of animosity over this investigation. And you're like, get him, Gowdy! And it's not even real. You watch that for a month and you're like, wait a minute, nothing's going to come of this. They arrested Strzok and they got the dossier and they're like, so did he get pissed on or what? Does it fucking matter?
Yeah, no, that would make sense.
And none of it does,
Yeah,
because in the end, it's just them wasting taxpayers' money. It's just them, because they have nothing. When you look at like what their platform is, it's like if I myself was a fucking just husband and a father and and I had white kids and I was a white man and I was the man I am, but I had a wife and kids in this country, all of their policies say to you, like, hey, you faggot, you fucking evil, imperialist, Nazi, colonizing racist, do you think we should have open borders? Hey, you fucking, like, slave-driving, evil, fucking patriarchal, toxic male, do you think illegal immigrants should come in here and that you should pay for their health care? Hey, you piece of shit who should have killed yourself already because you're the responsible for the fucking terrorism and the racism in this country, and white men are a domestic terrorist threat? Just ask Don Lemon.
They're doing that with gaming, though. They're trying to force that shit into games, and
Oh yeah, man. Last of Us 2 is going to be a big LGBTQ rant about, like, you know, it's okay for Ellie to be gay, right? And she's got a Muslim girlfriend, Patriots. Fucking what? As they just tap their foot at you, and it's like, okay, Druck, you want my money? Shut the fuck up. I know that you're Jewish, and you know what? That doesn't bother me, because you're a mastermind. You're an artiste. I'll eat my hat when it comes to you fucking liberals and your goddamn narrative, because what they make with games, they do what Monet did with a canvas. They do what Kubrick did with celluloid.
Yeah.
But still, they are SJWs. I mean, you can go back and look at The Last of Us, and you can go back and look at Uncharted, especially Uncharted 4. Drake plays second fiddle to a lot of very empowered women. He gets his ass handed to him by a strong, empowered black woman.
I mean, that happens more in Marvel films. If you've ever, it kind of started with Ant-Man.
And it's not illegal immigration, because that's where people that, and again, it's such a stupid, you can't even, it goes to show you a lot that when you're around people that are Mexicans and you're around people that are Mexican parents and they start talking about, like, and Trump never even built the wall, so a lot of good that did to a virus. and you know that you can't even say like, he was never going to build it, and we've given Israel enough money to build our wall 6 times over. And if you think that I'm astonished that you're a parent and you're so small-minded that you think that a border is just because they're racist. It's like, that's not it at all. And if people can't even
Yeah.
grasp that, then I guess this lifeboat is just gonna sink.
Yeah, I mean,
If they're
makes enough
so
sense
great,
as far as
there's so many tangents you can't go off on about like immigration and geopolitics and shit that it's like, nobody cares. Who fucking cares? I'm gonna get this money. I'm gonna
yeah.
get this money. That's what people are.
I'm gonna get my credits.
I'm gonna get these nudes. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get this paycheck. I'm gonna get arrested.
Are you a believer of we're all gonna get replaced by robots?
Uh, Somewhat, but we're all gonna be replaced demographically. That's what their plan is. Because if you don't vote for them, they'll just immigrate someone in here that will, and you can die out. You fucking racist.
Makes sense.
That's why they want open borders. That's why they want, and again, it's going to kind of hopefully go back to the 1950s in terms of our foreign policy, because people will look at it and be like, so they want everybody in North America and everything in Southern Hemisphere to come over here, and we'll give them all of our health care, we'll give them all education, we'll give them all housing, like we'll collapse no, we won't, because people now are freaking out about just touching people or people even talking to them. Do you think they're going to want to hear like, hey, let's get all these immigrants in here? It's like, they could have disease. Get the fuck away from us. Even liberals now are going out and buying guns and talking about, we need a wall. Trump, we need a wall. They're scared.
Yeah.
Fear is well, they've been getting in since
Well, I know you
93.
said that
You can legal
coronavirus is
immigration.
gonna be the next 9/11, which it makes a lot
Oh,
of sense.
this is bigger than 9/11. 9/11 was bad, and 19 years later, it's bad because we'll never know, and people don't truly understand how much. If people don't understand that it's been 1984 since 9/11, I can't help you, and I don't care to. I'm not even going to have this conversation with you. You have to be to Building 7 to have this conversation.
Do you believe in
But it's bad.
ghosts?
This shit is
Do you believe in
Orwellian,
ghosts? Because I don't know.
Huxleyan, Bradburyan. I believe in that. I don't know if ghosts are real.
Or like
They've
haunted
always
shit,
bored me.
like haunted houses and shit.
I think
Like
if
horror
ghosts are a
movie.
thing, it's more like how they say that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So it's like your essence of your life force, maybe like the thing that, maybe it's the frequency that your consciousness was tuning into. It's almost
Yeah.
like, is consciousness aware of itself, or are we aware because we're conscious?
Yeah, no, conscious is where it starts to get fucked up with me, cause like then if I think about it, am I just a body? Like, am I just a goddamn corpse? I don't know, I think about that shit sometimes. I'm just like, am I just a corpse or am I a fucking, like, just someone living some
I
other
mean, in the
life?
moment, in the physical sense of reality, we aren't corpses. We have blood flowing through our veins. Our eyes are bright. We have
I know,
thoughts in
but
our heads.
sometimes I know, like, the thoughts in the heads is what it comes down to. Sometimes I don't feel my body at all. Like, I don't feel like anything's running when I'm just
Well,
laying
sometimes I don't really
down.
even think people, like if we get back to that thing about the NPCs and lacking inner monologues, like most of those people won't even ever think to themselves, like, where am I? Where do I exist?
Yeah, no. And it's like literally, I feel like I'm not even looking through my own eyes. I feel like I'm looking through eyes, if that makes any sense. That's
It's
how,
a philosophical exercise where you just hold your hand out flat in front of your face and you look at it and you ask yourself, like, whose hand is this? And you'll
yeah.
really start to like trip as far as like, you feel it, you can feel the tendons move. If you close your eyes, you can feel it close and you can feel the skin brush off. But like, you were really just going off the fact that you see it protruding up from your periphery, and you're like, that's my arm, that's my hand. It's like, but whose hand is that? It's kind of a
Yeah.
philosophical question from
Is it your hand or like when you die, does your conscious just float
where are
off
you?
into
Yeah,
another
it's like
body?
where are we really? Who is watching that hand? Who is aware of that hand?
Yeah, it's very much. I don't know. That shit kind of trips me out, but that's one
But
big
that
thing
stuff
about
eventually gets to where it's like you're on a mountain and you're like dying of
snow.
frostbite, and that hand is like the fingers on that hand are cold and black, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's I'm losing those fingers. That's fucking real.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't understand it. It's like
And whose hand is that? That's your friend's hand because he's gonna cannibalize it and you tonight.
is that finger soup? I have some finger, a little bit of finger soup.
Fucking
Put some toes in it, eyeballs even.
long pig fingers.
I don't know. The craziest thing I've ever happened. There was one time where I came really close to death, and I think I scared myself out of my own fucking body for a second. And what happened was I got jumped on the highway, and then yeah, which I already told you about. But did I tell you that when I was crossing the street running, that was a big ass truck that was about to hit me?
Yeah, when you told me that you're pretty sure you died.
Yeah, like I felt like I just fucking died there. Like, and then I just out of nowhere, I just felt alive again.
I mean, what if that was like the kill cam in your last game? Like, technically,
Yeah.
that guy driving the truck was playing this game,
Well, then that would
and
mean
then
we're fucked, because that would mean we literally live forever, that we just go into
yeah,
a new
the
dimension.
game was just like, you just got killed by a guy crossing the street. You fucking suck. And then, like, as you're like coming
Restart.
back, you just come to in this life, and now it's this instantaneous. It's like, no, you've just always been Ben, and you've known these people and me, and like you've known this place. But it's like, no, you died.
Eventually,
You
you're
suck
just
at
gonna
this
get
game.
so old,
You've
though,
already
that it's just
respawned.
you're in pain every day. So is that when death is true? Like if someone dies in my reality, or if I die, like what if there was a reality where I did die and I did die, but this is just I don't know, it's weird. This is just me living after it and you in a different reality of the one I just died in. I don't know. I don't know.
So what,
Psychedelic.
like it's like this is a different save? Like the one that you
Yeah.
died in was save one and this is save
Yeah,
two,
this
where
is
it's like
like yeah,
I made it
kind of.
across the street and I met Chance and I didn't die that time, but this is actually in the save after I died.
Yeah, 'cause I've tried to kill myself
Well, I mean, if you go off of the thing of
and I
the
feel like
Bhagavad
I
Gita,
with
we've
how much I
already died. We've all
yeah.
been killed, we've already been to battle, we've already murdered, we've already been destroyed, we've already been
Yeah.
slaughtered. Everything has already happened to us, especially in the egg, as far as like in the egg, it's like we said, you've already been the kids that John Wayne Gacy tortured. You've already been all the
Yeah.
people that Hitler killed. You've been Hitler, you've been Mao, you've been Pinochet, you've been fucking Benedict Arnold, you've been Elizabeth Bathory.
And Bill Clinton.
Yeah, you've been Bill Clinton. You were Hillary Clinton.
Oh, we were all so fighting.
That's such a crazy thought though. It's like I feel like it because that just gets into you call it nihilism, right? Where it's like that you're everyone and that's very self-centered. I don't know.
And
Solipsism.
you were Joe Exotic's
Very
reference.
narcissistic when you think of it.
Like for someone that I knew that blew off his own head, what if that was just a save that happened? He just does not have any memory of it and fucking like and it's just like it never happened and then there's just people in the my save that are like holy shit he died, you know.
Or somewhere you just like in that game, in that life where you died when you walked across the street and got hit by the car. All the shit you were doing is still like they're still there, just waiting for you. Like they're like when you leave an NPC, you know, like in Skyrim, and you're like, "Meet me outside the cave on the morrow. We will kill the Bandit King." And you're like, "Yeah, yeah, dude, I'll get around to that." And then like, oh fucking, almost 2 years later, you're walking down the road. You're like, oh shit, there's that guy. And then he's still just standing outside that cave where he's been for the last fucking for ages.
That'd be interesting. That'd be
Like the game just stops when you die because it's no longer like you were the players, so there's no reason for the game to go on because you're not playing it anymore.
yeah. I mean, or I don't know, 'cause it's so weird when it comes down to like organs. I feel like that's where it's like real reality in real life and shit. Kind of like blood and organs that like you know how you can feel your body reacting physically to the food that you put in? Like you can have you ever felt like the food go down your throat into your stomach?
Yeah, it's
And
like you just feel your bodily processes.
yeah, it's like
Think
that.
about the things that are going on like unconsciously. All the stuff like your neurons are firing right now, your brain is telling you what the buttons mean that you're pressing that instantaneously, like where to put them, like as you feel for the buttons without even looking at the controller,
Yeah, like I don't even look at my controller and I'm just
while
like
you are
moving.
simultaneously searching the dusty old libraries and catacombs inside your brain for words that you want to use or things you're like, I'm going to make this sentence sound this way, or I'm going to run these words along this, and I'm going to say this. Unconsciously, all this is happening.
Yeah. No, well, no, it kind of fucks me up, man. It gets into like a bunch of shit. I'm just like, damn, no, I don't know. Makes
Gets back to what I said, where I just wish I could stop fucking worrying and just play the game. But I can't
yeah,
even do that with games, so I have a hard time doing that with this.
yeah, like I don't
That's why I
know.
want to go skydiving. I want to treat it like if I went skydiving over Dubai, it would really feel like I'm in GTA 6 and this is what this crazy shit beneath me that I'm falling into right now looks like a video game map.
I feel like GTA 6, if it was in Dubai, that would be interesting.
Oh, it's not. It's gonna be. I've heard already. It's gonna be set in New Jersey apparently,
New
which is like
Jersey?
boring.
Why New Jersey? I mean, I'm sure no matter what, it's gonna have some cool shit you can do in it, but some dynamic shit probably, but I don't know. It's just another
Mechanically, it'll
GTA
be
game,
something
you know?
interesting, but I don't have my hopes up for that game. Mechanically, this game is interesting, but I really don't have my hopes up for this anymore either. Because where everything is going, and people could say that I sound like the politics of 4chan. People could say that I sound like a typical fucking nationalist spur. People could be like, oh, you're a typical Trump voter. I didn't even vote for Trump. I never did, probably never will. I liked him at one time for my own goddamn reasons. But he used to venerate the individualist and talk about, like, really made me see they're like, wow, I guess you can have kind of an effect doing this job more than I ever thought you really could. But now it doesn't matter. It's going one way, and that way is the way of dystopia. The way of people reporting their neighbors and
Are you fine
giving
with
away every liberty they ever
dystopia?
fucking
Like,
had,
personally,
just
like,
being
could you
safe.
deal with the fact that we are going to a dystopian future?
Oh, we've already been in this future since 9/11, since 1995, since
Well,
1965, since like it's been happening.
and
So
let me
whether or
change
not
it
you're
like
okay
this
with it,
then.
you're going along.
Well, let me change it like this then. Like, would you, if there was to be a revolution, would you be a part of that said revolution?
There will never be a revolution. Liberty dies not with thundering applause, but with an inaudible mutter. There will never be a revolution.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I could agree with that, but I don't know. I'm just saying, if there
Because
was,
believe me, I used to think that we're gonna stop they or whoever they are. We're gonna stop these people. We're gonna rise up. We are gonna be different. It's like, no, we're not. It's like these people that think like it would have been different if I was in Stalinist Russia. It would have been different if I was in
well,
China under Mao. It would have been different in Germany. I would have told Hitler. Oh, you would have told Hitler? Yeah, you would have. You would have fucking not raised your hand, and then they would have beat you to death that night, or they would have shot you in the head, or they would have taken you away and vanished you in the night, you would have raised your fucking hand because you would have been afraid. Because you're afraid that everyone else who's like, "Oh, you're not a Nazi? You're not a Marxist? You're not down for, you're not fucking trans kids? Dude, what the fuck is the matter with you? We gotta report this guy. You don't want your kids to have, you don't let your kids go to drag time story hour? What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? You're a transphobe? It's gonna
That
become
makes
that normal.
sense.
It's gonna become that, like, it's already normal to say fuck white people. It's already normal to be like, isn't it funny how
It's
they,
normal to say that you're a fucking girl
yeah.
and you're a guy.
It's already normal for me to have dozens of conversations with lots of your generation of that they love traps and they love
Or that
some
they're
back sack
fucking-
kitty boy
or
fucking
that they just
action.
believe
Have
that
you
they're
actually
girl
ever came into anyone like that? That said
Yes,
they
lots
just.
of people.
people fucking
Oh, wow.
Lots
really
of people.
believe.
It is the norm now,
Or
trust me.
even if they don't
It's
say
more
they love
punk
trans.
rock and more counterculture now to be a person that's like, I'm gonna be an adult. I'm gonna take responsibility for my life. I'm gonna pay my fucking taxes. I'm gonna deal with the world that is given to me because that's what you have to do. And that's more punk rock now. That's more like, fucking anarchy!
Yeah, you're like, I want to be a normal fucking citizen. Damn
Yeah.
it.
I'm gonna fucking do what's
I'm gonna
right!
get a fucking job, motherfucker.
I'm not gonna be a victim!
I'm gonna get a fucking job.
I am gonna
How
be
you
a
feel about that?
fucking adult!
Oh
When it
man.
used to be, in our generation, it was like, man, fuck the man, fucking
Fucking live in a
corporations.
goddamn warehouse.
Fight the man, stick up for him. You're gonna be the kid dancing on the lunch table, you're gonna date the cheerleaders, and you're gonna be famous, you little shit.
Max Keaton.
Little Romeo's gonna be your homie, dude, cause you're cool, you got black friends, yo. Lil Romeo, kids don't know who the fuck Lil Romeo
Have a
is.
fun life. Or you're gonna be a fucking rebel. And you're gonna like be like,
Fucking Lil Romeo, Lil Bow Wow. Yes, they are both light-skinned Negroes.
they're the whitest black boys.
The whitest black kids you know, like skin Negroes.
Oh man. Oh man. Yeah, no, fucking, makes sense. A lot of this shit does. I'll give you
Nothing
that.
makes sense anymore, man. The only thing that makes sense is that what I'm tired of and I can't go back to, and I can't even talk to my best fucking friend, is that you talk to black people about any of this, and they're like, yeah, man, that's cool. But a black man in this country, it's like,
But it's worse for the black people.
No.
That's bad. And you're like,
no, like, and then it just goes off to like, fucking, the Frankfurt School, Karl Marx, anybody to the left of the liberals called this ideology turning cultural Marxism into the bourgeoisie being the white man, destroying the patriarchy is destroying Western civilization, is destroying the very foundation of... And then they're just eventually like, man, mute this fuck nigga.
Yeah, it's like they.
Because it's like, I'm not gonna fucking sit there anymore and be that chump ass Mark white boy of like, tell me how we fucking enslaved your people. I'm sorry. It's like, no.
we are a fucking bunch of.
We are. You know, I think I'll just kill myself. You want me to lick your boots?
Like, fuck my family.
And it's like, they'll look at you as a mark. Like, if any of you are out there and you think you're going to be their ally and they're not going to murder you when the time comes to start murdering white people because we're a minority, you're a fucking mark. You're a bitch. You're a fucking chump. They look at you as like, yeah, you're a fucking housewigger. They look at you as like, you have no spine. You sold out your own people. You think we would even like you, you little bitch?
Like their pet.
You can
Like a
fucking
monkey that they-
clean our assholes.
Hmm.
Because the people that think that it's like, oh no, I'm cool with them. I have black friends. It's like, yeah, and you probably just let them sit there and be like, let me tell you about history that my granddaddy, pappy told me. It's like, you don't know shit about history because if you actually listen to actual black people that black people even don't like Jesse Lee Peterson, amazing. Fucking Colin Powell, or not Colin Powell, that was a bitch. What the hell is his name? Thomas Sal. A lot of black people that got me woke to the collectivist bullshit of black people. And they were black. Some of my mentors were black, you bastard.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like anyone that actually sees something.
Do you feel that you should?
Cause there are people of every skin color that do have those mindsets. Like there are NPC white people. If you want to get into like NPCs and stuff,
Yeah,
there's
man.
NPC white people. There's
What
NPC
it gets around
females.
to is that they have taken an entire generation, especially me and my sister's generation of white people of the like from the 1990s, the most abiding, like caring, like non-collectivist. They taught us to be like, man, racism is just some shit that a bunch of bigots in the past did, and we're better than that, man, because we're from the future and we're moving on, and we legalized gay marriage, and we got a black president, and we fucking broke the mold. It's like we didn't do shit. We swung the pendulum right along to the post-Marxist modernist world that they wanted. We swung the pendulum right along to the moral relativist dystopia of there is no God, so I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. If there's no God, then you can do.
I'm not burning in hell right now. My skin isn't boiling, so I'm gonna fuck that cat. I'm gonna fucking cut my kid's dick off.
I'm gonna
I'm
fuck
gonna
the shit out of that
I'm gonna shoot
cat.
up the school because my dad wasn't there. I'm gonna fucking start destroying everything because I'm a victim and somebody needs to know that I did it because I had to turn to crime. It's like, no, you could have gotten a shitty job. You could have dealt with a fucking man taking his midlife crisis out on you for 3 years. Like, get the fucking phones! You can get the pizza? Everything you do is a lie, you shit! I'll kick your fucking ass! Like, you could have dealt with an employer. You could have dealt with it like a man, but you want to be a victim because it's harder to be a man in this day and age and admit that it affects me and this terrifies me and I have to deal with this gauntlet that is being thrown down rather than to be an edgelord nihilist and be like, man, everything's free and we're all just a clump of cells anyway and nothing matters and there is no God, there is no consequence, there is no objective truth, beauty, or relative anything. There is just my truth. There is only how I feel. And so they took our generation off the back of all this coming into it, and our generation was taught to be like, no, man, don't be racist. Racism is done. We're all going to the stars. We've put that to bed. Fucking racism? Quashed it. Done. What's racism? Fucking, we handled that. Where are the shovels? Like, we're gonna bury it. Shot it in the head. It's Tommy and Goodfellas. Like, racism was, we handled it. And then shit starts to come about where you start to be like, no, it's actually racist if you don't see color. It's actually racist if you've never ever even thought about other people's plight. It's racist that you can't recognize your white privilege, even though white privilege is like saying you people are all the same. It's like collectivizing whites, which is like Czech, Slovakian, Russian, Slavic, fucking Lithuanian, Albanian, Eastern European,
Arabic privilege, if you really want to talk about
like,
privilege, Arabic
yeah,
privilege.
there was only one type of racism that I really started to see anymore in this country because, again, they trained my entire generation to be like, get the hell out of here, racist, we'll fuck you up. You're talking shit about my... Like, they trained us to be their little cucks.
Yeah.
Is white people against... Yeah. A lot of people, you don't realize when you think you have your defined terms, it's like, dude, racism is white people against black people to most people nowadays. When they think of racism, they're like, oh yeah, white people got on ships and enslaved the whole world.
Yeah, it doesn't even come down to like real racism where it's like
Yeah, man.
other countries trying to enslave, like how Chinese people tried to enslave
one of the things
Australians.
One of the things in Marxism that they do is the rewriting and the wholesale like redefining of words, and racism to them now is that white people can't be racist because you can't be racist because you have power plus privilege. And it's like, so you can't be racist to white people because they are the most, and it's like, there are people that literally think that history was just us going around the world kicking everybody's sandcastles over.
Yeah, no, it's like, no, that's
in a
not
way,
the case.
we had the technology to get there and do some shit. Does that make it like it's just what history was? Like people refuse to look at history as like, well, that's how it happened. I, as a person in 2020, might not agree with it, but I also need to understand that I wasn't those men. I wasn't facing life, liberty, or death. I wasn't facing winter. I wasn't facing existence.
Each other and wrapping each other in boots
And whenever we got into slavery, it was like getting an iPhone. It was like everybody has got an iPhone. Eventually, you've got an iPhone in your pocket. The Polynesians enslaved the Polynesians. Those are the Hawaiians for people that aren't like the Chinese. Fucking
Polynesians.
yeah.
Chinese people have tried to enslave Australians. That's an interesting one. Mexican
Everybody
people
acts like
enslaved like everyone. Mexican people
yeah.
had a
Everybody
shit
acts
ton of
like
slaves.
the South was just one big cotton plantation, like huge factory. It's like only about 0.3% of the South was the rich, wealthy plantation owners. That's why they would have been the 1% just like today. It was like a percentile of people that were wealthy plantation owners. If you were just some schmuck white guy, you couldn't even get a job. You were lower than a slave that they could immigrate in and make them do the work. It was like high technology because slaves were basically technology. That's where, like, again, this gets into the stuff where they want to have it where, like Roots and 12 Years a Slave and like all these slavery movies. Like you notice how every movie that sweeps the
Yeah, 12
Oscars
years, a
makes
100
us
years
look
a
like,
slave.
oh, it's
That
so
that
beautiful. Another movie showing how evil white people are, how fucking like cartoon, like it's like the shit that they get into.
and everything's such blatant
Yeah, man.
propaganda.
If people want to talk about white guilt, like let's talk about like throw Arabian guilt at freaking Arabs and Muslims because they transported enough slaves across the Horn of Africa that enough of them died during those journeys that it's considered a slave holocaust in those regions. They castrated their slaves. There's not a lot of black people in the Middle East. You'll never hear those people branded with like Arabian guilt, Muslim guilt. It's only white guilt because again, it goes back to that they know that white people as a race, as a group, are the most non-collectivist group that there is out of Chinese, Mexicans, Asians, fucking like blacks, out of Japanese, out of everybody, out of every group out there. I mean, now you have everyone coming from like, I mean, that's why you have Native American History Month, Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, La Raza, the race, Latin X. But yet, if you tried to have white history, which it would just be, and again, Jesse Lee Peterson, who is a black man, he made White History Month. It's in July now. You can ask him about that. Apparently, that is National White History Month. I think it fits perfectly, July. But white history would just be all of history if we were going to have a history. So it's kind of like, or that one joke about like, well, you guys may have Black History Month, but we have Father's Day.
Yeah, no. Father's Day is
And
like,
Black History Month is really like the first black woman to do this, but the first actual
don't they
human being
have
to do it
Women
is like
History
fucking
Month where it's like
white
about
person.
women?
They're like the first black man in space.
Yeah.
And you're like the first black man to fucking
Lily Singh is the
make $1
first
million
black
dollars.
bisexual women of color late night talk show host. And it's like, man,
fucking
what
the
about
first person
fucking
to do it, though.
Arsenio Hall?
Like they always act like they
It's not.
accomplished something because a black person did something at some point. You know, you're like,
But they took an entire generation, our generation, and they made us like, don't be racist. And then now they turn it around and they wonder why there's suddenly like, when Trump got elected, they're like, there's an uprising of white supremacy and Nazi nationalism in this country. It's Trump's America. It has reinvigorated the spirit of the KKK. Even though the KKK was the Democrats and the left, and that's from their stable. But people wonder why white people are getting so pissed. It's because the anti-white narrative is getting fucking tiring. Like people are getting, and I don't even have skin in the game. I don't even have children, and I'm tired of this shit. You imagine how people with families feel?
Yeah, I was talking to some Marines and they were
E-
telling me about how like like
Every commercial now. Yeah, because white people can take a joke, but now it's kind of like, wait, this isn't a joke anymore. This is racism.
yeah, I mean eventually it's gonna get bad, I'm sure, but everyone's just
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
man, it's already bad. Look, Ben, what we're talking about right now, and like obviously
people have been
Galactic,
talking
no,
about for a
we're
long
not.
time.
We are Nazis compared to the mainstream narrative. The algorithm will bury us. We will be canceled by Huffington Post. We will be reported by the ACLU, the SPLC, the ADL. Like, you will be fucking silenced and censored. This is absolute 1984 Ray Bradburyan, Huxleyan. Like, it's like Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, and Oceania
Yeah,
all rolled into
especially
one
when there's
big fucking
like
amalgamation.
there was a video that got leaked about this one rapper, and basically he was talking to the CEO, and she basically said um that that she would fuck with the algorithms to make his music popular.
Yeah, it's It's all the
Well,
algorithms.
he's
It's like,
dead now, but
I mean, you have to possibly you. I don't know if you guys notice, and it's like again, they do this to make you sound like if I heard myself, my younger liberal, libertarian, like lefty, almost communist self, I would be like, I don't even know who you are anymore, man. Get the fuck away from me. And I'd be like, you don't know shit, you little like because you don't when you're younger. You
and
if
the
you have
funny
a
thing
soul,
too is that they were
if you have a
told to
brain,
delete it.
if you have a heart when you're younger, you're on the left. If you're not on the right when you're older, you don't have a brain. Because you look at the world differently. You look at it as like, well, I mean, there's a way that I'd like things to be, and there might be a beautiful, naive sense of idealism that we could have, but that's not the way reality works, and that's not the way that the chips fall into place. There
Yeah.
is one way it is, and there's one way people want it to be, and that's what the left can't understand, is that their world is a world of vanity politics, virtue signaling, and naive, myopic, like, a sense of the world that, like, well, it should be this way because any other way is bullshit and it's hard, and it's mean, and people are mean, and it's like, no, it's more subtle than that, it's more nuanced than that. I'm sorry, people can't look at it that way. They have to think that it's racism for people to want to secure a border. They have to think that it's racism for people to want to vote for a guy that looks like them and is like them because he might have their same values, even though that's where we get into the problem with we're going to get fucked demographically with the shift in demographics through legal immigration because, and this is just facts, you can look it up, 70% of legal immigrants vote left, whether it is for ethnocentricity or racial solidarity. And you can't call them racist. You can't be like, hey, dude, what the fuck are you doing voting for a Brazilian guy? You're Brazilian. That's kind of racist, dude. Like,
Yeah.
check your
Sure.
privilege. Check your Brazilian privilege, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Makes
Yo.
sense. Makes a lot of sense.
It's like a radio thing, I think. It's like a broadcast that came in. You do events for it, unlock standing, get different abilities. But yeah, Ben, it's like with this little conversation that we're having. Yeah, it is such an Orwellian world at this point that we are Nazis. Like, if you agree with any of this, you're a fucking Nazi. You deserve to be silenced. You're a white nationalist. You're evil. And it's like, again, the people talking about this are just people that are normal people, and they're like, hey man, every commercial is like subtly saying fuck whitey now, and it has black people in it. Like, even if the commercial is just about cough drops, it's like, you and your black wife will love these.
Yeah. But is that, I don't know. Was there, I guess it comes
Yeah.
down to like, was there this before? Was,
No, and growing up through the 90s, like even going back and watching movies, like Gangs of New York and The Whackness and like fucking Good Burger, man, that was a fucking staple of the 90s. Like, they used to do diverse, like a great movie that is a movie that is like diversity done right is fucking Dead Poets Society or fucking Brink or like, yeah, Good Burger. Like, it was very, they didn't used to make it to where the movie or a movie nowadays. Yeah. And there was a lot of different races in a lot of these movies where now it's like they blatantly put them in there, like with the Asian characters and the black characters in Star Wars. It's like Finn is there because fuck the white guy and fuck you, whitey, we're taking your spot. You need to get out of the spotlight. You're no longer the main character. Like, did you know that everything, it all stems from everything. Like, people think none of this matters. If you like art, if you like video games, if you like books, if you like anything that isn't politics, politics is killing everything because everything has become politics because everything is becoming to such a fever pitch that, like, and there's no such thing as fundamentalist art. Fundamentalist art is just propaganda.
propaganda is everything though. Propaganda is literally everything. Like, imagine propaganda done right on a Netflix level with fucking,
Yeah, yeah.
it'd be fucking insane. But now that's impossible to do these days. Hey,
Oh yeah, dude, doesn't
Wait, hey, who are you talking to? Ooh.
yeah, it's like whenever they make it to where yeah. Oh, dude, they're getting ripped apart by the left. Like the people, like the LGBTQ is like, why did you call them snow, snowflake, and safe space? You moron! You're giving them power. Like, and this because they're pandering to them. It's like you don't pander to the left. You don't try to give them anything. They will rip you to shreds, even if you
Wait,
think you're on their side.
hey, who are you talking to? Just so I know to unmute.
And yeah, Galactic, it's like it's I'm not even when they have people like me talking like this years later, it's because they pushed me into the political sphere. Because eventually you got tired of like I think it started around the time of like Mass Effect Andromeda and that whole thing of like they gave the fucking Mass Effect to a B team of SJWs, SJW, and you just kept hearing that, and I'm just like, what the fuck is an SJW? And then eventually I get into it, and you're like, holy shit, they're destroying everything. Everything. Art is dying. Because art is now becoming a way to just be like, fucking Trump! Everything. Everything is
Hey,
a hissy fit about Trump.
can you tell
Everything
Galactic to unmute me?
is a temper tantrum. Oh yeah, Galactic, go ahead and unmute Ben, he said. Everything, dude. Death Stranding. Like again, when we talk about there is no such thing as fundamentalist art. Death Stranding is fundamentalist art in the sense that it's propaganda. All that game is propaganda, is anti-Trump America propaganda. Like, and it wasted one of the coolest mechanically sound badass games. Like as far as like a game, it's like a Metal Gear successor with layers upon layers upon layers of gameplay and the mechanics that start to loop back on each other, and you can like stack them and do different things with the gadgets, and like the game is a very different game by the time you beat it. But the whole fucking game is just a way for Kojima to beat you over the head with exposition about Trump's America and fuck you and those the most far gone are the ones who think they need a border to protect them and the ones who refuse to turn away refugees. And it's like, hey, cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks. You're talking about Israel.
Sorry to interrupt you, but can you tell Ben that I'm gonna go to the extraction since
No, I can hear you now. No, I can hear you
oh
now.
you can?
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
I'm gonna go extract.
yeah. No, I just wasn't
Yeah,
talking.
man.
But
It's like I
hey,
lose
I
the
think
point every time with this, but it's like in closing, it's like people that think we're racists. I am just being realistic about it now because I realize my whole life that you motherfuckers are the racists.
yeah.
Later,
I mean,
I've
what
lived
I do
around
want to
Native
say though,
Americans and Mexicans my whole life. Being the minority as a white boy, that's racism.
um, what I do want to say though, eight is I think I don't know how long we've been doing this for, but I think we should end this pretty soon.
Yeah, man. Whatever this one was about, racism, the culture war, the
Gaming.
decline of gaming getting boring until it eventually multiplies or descends into a job of just monotony and going through the motions of like I'm pressing a button and I'm filling up bars and I'm dying. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Until you find a novel experience that takes you away from that for a moment and you're like, wow, I love this.
Alright, well, thank you for anyone that joined in during Genuine Podcast. And, we'll come out with another episode pretty soon to a theater near you. And, anything you want to say, Les? Yeah, press start.